Hello everybody, my name is Pixel. Happy holidays and welcome to Did You Misbehave? Now this is a Christmas themed horror visual novel. Now you know how much we love visual novels around here, and we're going to get into this and see what this story has in store for us. Christmas is approaching, and like every December 1st, you left your workplace to go to your real home. As one of Santa's elves destined to watch over whether the children of the world behave well or badly, your job at the end of the year is to meet Santa Claus to tell him who has been a good child and who has been a bad child. So, like every year, you set out on a journey to reach Lapland, where all the elves of the world meet every year to talk to Santa Claus. You have been traveling for a few days. You are running late, as you originally planned to arrive in Ravaniemia, Santa Claus Village, on the 5th, but ended up arriving on the evening of the 6th. Oh, hi there. There's no bus stop in the village, so the bus you were on dropped you off at the nearest bus stop, a couple of kilometers away, where only you got off. Fortunately, you only had a light suitcase, so walking a bit after sitting so many hours didn't seem like a bad idea. So you started walking towards the town. When you get to the village, you start walking through the streets, and at first you didn't notice anything strange. But after a while, you realize that in time you've been there, you haven't seen anyone at all. When you turn a corner, you find yourself facing a house with an open door. Let's keep looking for somebody. We don't want to go peeking in houses or anything. You keep looking for someone in the streets. You decide not to enter such a shady place and try your luck in case there's someone else on the street. You continue until you reach a really wide place with a large frozen fountain in the middle. As you reach the square, you see a series of figures on the other side of the fountain. As it is already getting dark, you find it hard to distinguish them well and decide to get closer without trying to get their attention. Hey, hello? But you get no response. As you get closer, you see that what you thought were people are actually snowmen scattered around the square. The snowmen have sad faces, turned heads, and ropes around them as intended to immobilize them. Realizing the creepy scene, you decide to leave the square as quickly as possible. So you turn around and head somewhere else. You're about to leave the square when in your head you hear some disturbing noises of chains that make a shiver run down your back. You don't even want to turn around to look for something since it was just something in your head, so you start walking faster until you leave the square. Once outside, weren't we already outside? Once outside in the streets, you see something that catches your attention, something you haven't seen for a long time. A sign from an old candy store. Now you know exactly where you are. You're in the neighborhood of your childhood friend, Peter Green Boots. You think it's a good idea to see if your friend is still there, or maybe you can find some clue as to what's going on, so you set off for his house. You have just arrived at your old friend's house. Looking at the mailbox, you see that your friend is still living there. You try to look through the windows, but everything is dark, and the darkness outside doesn't help either. You remember that your friend used to put some spare keys under the doormat, so you go to see if they're still there. You're pleasantly surprised to see the keys there. You pick them up and put them in the lock. With a little effort, the key turns and the door opens. Seeing that it's already dark, you rush inside. You walk through the interior of the house and try to find some source of light. When you reach the living room, you see the switch next to the door frame. After pressing it, the light turns on and illuminates the scene. You see a trashed room as if somebody had broken in, and no matter how hard you looked, you couldn't find anything. You start to call your friend when suddenly you hear a noise upstairs. I'ma leave. See ya. You leave the house. You go out into the street scared. You start to run away from the place when a tall hair-covered creature with twisting horns and goat legs appears behind you. Carried on his back, he carries a sack, and in his free hand he carries a wooden staff. Chains fall from his wrists, scratching at the ground as he passes. You start to run faster as he begins to follow you. You try to throw him off by turning right in a couple of streets, and you think about that when you turn the next street, you will end up losing him, and the street is about to end. Turn to the right. The right is always right. Turns to the right. You decide to turn right when to your surprise, you realize that it's a dead-end street. You turn around to go the other way when the tall figure blocks your path. It slowly approaches you. You're paralyzed with fear. The demon eventually arrives in front of you, reaching out his arm and grabs you, lifting you up into the air. Krampus, the demonic creature that punishes bad children before Christmas, has caught you, and you know there is no chance to escape. The demon releases the sack from his back and opens it, letting you see the swirling darkness inside. As he releases you inside, his smiles, showing you his ugly fangs, and he says in a horrible voice, "You've been bad, haven't you?" Yes, so bad. And why it won't let us go to the next screen. So we're just gonna say that that's where that storyline ends. But we're gonna go through this again. We're gonna let's turn to the left this time. Let's see what happens. We'll be right back. Okay, so this point, you know what? We're gonna go in the house. We're gonna go in the house. I wonder what's in the house. You enter the house. Crossing the door frame, you find yourself in a hallway with several doors on either side that ends in what you can intuit is the kitchen. Next to you is a staircase leading to the floor above. Let's go to the upper floor. You explore the upper floor. With every step you take, the wood chimes, giving the situation an even more gloomy tone. When you reach the upper floor, you see different bedrooms. After entering each one and observing, you see that they all have things in common. The beds are unmade, plus some damage as some furniture has been hit or broken recently, as the house has no signs of having been abandoned long ago. With a strange feeling, you decide what to do. Let's go back to the hallway. You start walking down the hallway and see a large room through one of the doors. You enter the living room and start walking around the room. You see some damaged things in the room. The wooden floor is grated, making a path back to the door of the room to the Christmas tree that looks deteriorated. The star that goes on top of it is missing. It is broken a few steps over. You notice that by the fireplace there are 3 torn Christmas stockings. Otherwise, the room is in order. You head for the kitchen and finish checking the first floor without finding anything else that might give you a clue, so you decide to continue. Well, we've already been upstairs, so let's leave the house. Set off for another place. It's already starting to get dark, so you don't want to stay on the street much longer. You've been walking for a few meters. The sound of chains echoes inside your head, causing a shiver to run down your spine. You look around to see what could have caused the noise, but you realize that it sounded inside your head, so you decide to move forward. Okay, so this is the place we recognize where we're from, and now we see the house, and we're going to go inside the house. We reach the door frame. You know, things have been trashed. You know what? Let's hide in the living room now. Let's see if we can see who's here. You hide in the living room. After hearing the noise, you look for a place to hide right there in the living room. You see a small closet you can get into, although it's a bit cramped. After entering, you close the doors and wait for a while. Time passes that seems like eternal to you, and when you're about to leave, you hear the door of the house open, so you wait hidden in the closet to try to see something through the cracks. You see how something very tall, full of hair, with horns enters the living room, approaches the center with a wooden stick, hits the light bulb, enveloping everything in darkness. You start to think what this creature could be when it all comes to your mind. Krampus, the antithesis of Santa Claus, comes out during the nights of December 5th and 6th to punish children who have misbehaved and take them to hell, where he will punish them until he decides to devour them. Just if you're just remembering, the closet door opens and a large hand grabs you by the waist and lifts you into the air. In the darkness, you're able to see the large eyes and crooked yellowish teeth. The creature develops a large sack that it carries on the back, and it says to you in a horrible voice, "You've been bad, haven't you?" And once again, that is where our story ends and we can't exit. So, next time around, we're going to go upstairs. We're going to see what that noise could have been. So, once again, be right back, guys. Alright, so we have returned to this choice, and now we're going to go upstairs. We're going to see what all the noise is all about. You go upstairs to inspect the noise. You decide to see what it is that rang out, so you go upstairs. You start to walk through the rooms as you see how everything is disarray, just like downstairs. As you reach the last room, you hear a faint sound coming from a closet, as you cautiously start to ask, "Hello? Is anyone there?" Closet door slowly opens and you see a young elf who looks familiar. Although he looks frightened, he also seems to recognize you. It's Peter, your old friend. You both stare at each other when Peter says to you, "What are you doing here?" "I've come back to meet Santa Claus and tell him which children have misbehaved in the area where I was working. I came back just this afternoon, but I haven't found anyone anywhere. I don't know what's going on. You shouldn't be here. He'll come if he notices you." "What? Who's coming, Peter? What's going on?" "In the old days, Santa didn't have all the means to deal with all the children in the world. So he asked for help from a demon, the Krampus, the creature who was in charge of punishing bad children by taking them to hell in his sack to torture and eat them. He disappeared a long time ago and people forgot him, but last night he came back. The Krampus is here. But that's impossible. The Krampus is just a myth. That's what everyone believed, but it's not. At the moment, the house was heard. Heavy footsteps were heard on the floor below, and after a loud knock, the little light that came out of the living room ran down the staircase and into the room was extinguished. Peter said as he whispered, "Quick, you must hide before he comes. Get inside here. You can't go back through the door. He will come." At the moment, you see the wide open window of the room looks outside. Let's hide with Peter. Let's hide with Peter. You hide with Peter. Praying that what you thought was just a myth until a moment ago, you will not find you or Peter. A rattling of chains echoes as you climb the stairs. You hear how it is getting closer and closer to your room, having passed through each of the previous rooms. Then you hear the footsteps finally enter your room. You both hold your breath, hoping that he can't sense that you are there. Suddenly you hear a horrible voice say, "Have you misbehaved? You're being a bad boy." Closet door opens, revealing in the dim light from the window a huge, hairy creature with huge horns and goat's feet. On both wrists hang two tightly bound chains. On his back, he carries a sack in one hand. He carries a wooden staff. It's definitely him. It's Krampus, you think. The creature drops the sack on the ground as he stretches out his arm with the intention of grabbing something. At that moment, with your eyes closed, you notice something tugging at you. You open them and see it's Peter calling out to you. Peter, attacked by Krampus, clings to you in the hope of doing something, but the demon, with one tug, manages to pull him out of the closet. You know you can't just stand there and jump out of the closet. You're scared, and from the shock, you barely understand what's happening or what you are doing. Then Peter screams, "You have to go! You have to go! Go see Santa Claus. Only he can help you." At that moment, you look out the window and see that's your only chance to survive. You climb out of it and look back for a second to see how the demon finishes stuffing your friend into the sack. After jumping out of the window, you land on the snowy ground off the street. Still terrified of what you just saw, you start running aimlessly. You just want to run away from there, but you remember Peter's last words and you head towards Santa's factory. You feel that the monster is following you, but you don't want to turn around. You know if you turn around, you won't be able to move anymore after seeing it again. The sound of chains start to sound even closer. You keep running until the chains stop rattling. You stop and look around you. A shadow slips between the buildings. As you look ahead, you realize you're in front of Santa's workshop. You open the door, but it won't open. You lose all hope and start to leave when a crack opens in the door. "Hey you, come here quick." You turn around and see the door open a little, just enough for you to enter. You enter the workshop and the first thing you see is an elf you don't know. The elf says to you, "Hi, I'm Mary Shiny Hat. You were lucky to make it this far. Did you run into Krampus?" Before you have time to answer, she says, "Quick, you have to go to Santa Claus and tell him what you know. If you have any doubts, he will solve them." Mary starts walking diligently down a wide corridor. When she sees that you're not following her, she stops and gestures for you to go with her. You start to follow her and walk for a little while. The factory is so big, so you're not surprised. Along the way, you wonder what happens if she walks out the door. What if someone else comes? But you don't want to bother her with something like that. I'm sure it is already taken care of. You arrive at the door. The elf stands and knocks on the door. The door opens to reveal a large room full of elves. Several elves and a man and woman are spreading food and blankets around the room. Mary enters and enunciates, "Mr. Noel, I've brought someone from outside, another elf." A chubby man dressed in red starts walking towards you. When he reaches you, he lifts up and hugs you, something at that moment you were pleasantly comforted by. "Thank goodness someone else made it. I was worried Krampus had caught them all. Where did you come from?" He puts you down on the floor so you can talk. "Well, I came all the way from overseas to talk about the misbehaving children. I arrived this afternoon and found this situation." "Ho ho ho! So you are one of my envoys to see how the children are behaving. I'm so sorry this happened. Although I am glad you're here. I can't say the same for many of the elves who lived in the village. I don't know if you have met Krampus, the creature with the big horns." "Yes, sir. While wandering around the city, I went to the house of an old acquaintance. When I arrived, I found my friend hiding in a closet. When he was telling me about what happened, the demon came in and trapped my friend while I had time to escape. You can't understand what's going on." as I come towards the place that had chased me, but when I got here, it had just left. Yes, strangely, no time as he has ever come to the factory. I'll explain the situation to you. A long time ago when I started this job, I was overwhelmed with the amount of bad children, and I saw that I couldn't manage to punish them all. So I made a deal. A demon to be the one to punish those children who misbehave so that I could dedicate myself to making gifts for those who behave well. Everything was going well, but over the years I stopped needing his help, as there were fewer and fewer children who misbehaved. Since Krampus didn't want to break the deal, he decided to imprison him so he couldn't punish anyone else. Every year at the moment of his confinement, on December 5th and 6th, he is dying to go out and punish all those who have misbehaved or do not feel the Christmas spirit. Every year his seal has remained intact, but on this year, the night of the 5th, the seal is broken, and he escaped, more furious than ever. At first I tried to talk to him, but he yelled at me that all misbehaved, and we no longer had Christmas spirit. With my current power, I couldn't do anything against him, so I went back to the workshop trying to save as many elves as I could, and fortunately Krampus didn't come near me at any time. Currently, no one is allowed to leave the factory, and if anyone leaves, we cannot guarantee their safety. In the workshop are the workers who are working, and some elves who are able to come in the middle of the night. There's nothing we can do but wait for night to pass and Krampus to return to his confinement in the morning. Feeling safe now under the protection of Santa Claus, the most Christmassy being who had ever lived, and shaking your head as a sign that you have understood his explanation, you follow him until he points to an unoccupied corner. Mama Noel offers you a blanket to protect you from the cold. There you curl up to try to fall asleep, and after a long time, you manage to do it. When you wake up, you see that the light is coming through the factory windows, so you see how Papa and Mama Noel are not in the room, and also some more elves who are missing than the ones you saw yesterday. Several other elves are in charge of directing the elves still left in the room. As you get up, you are told that all is well now, and Krampus has returned to his seclusion, and Papa and Mama Noel have gone to look for more survivors together with the more elves. You think if this is the year happened, and you have been able to survive, what will happen next year? And if you do something wrong, will you be a bad elf? So the question that fills your head is whether next year. Okay, it just kind of stops there. Will you be bad? And that is the end of that storyline right there. What a story. What a story of Krampus. And it just goes to show you that you can't hide from him. Whether you're in a closet or hiding with a friend or under a bed, he will find you. He will find you. He will stuff you in his bag. He will torture you. And then before everything is all said and done, he devours you. So remember, kids, behave. Thank you guys so much for watching. That was kind of cool. I enjoyed that story. A little bit of branching paths there, but I'm glad we got to see all the endings. And I'm hoping the developer comes back to this at a later time and kind of fix that bug to where you reach the end of a story and it just stops there. It doesn't let you continue. But great story. Loved it. I enjoyed reading that. Thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you thought. You want to see more content like this? We're going to be having it all month long. Go ahead, subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell. Get notified whenever these videos drop. You ever play this game for yourself? I'll have a link down in the description below. Maybe there's paths that I didn't go down. I don't know what happens whenever you maybe go left down the hall, down the alley. Or maybe you can jump out the window before hanging out with your friend. Who knows? So if you want to play it for yourself, I'll have a link down in the description below. You can go ahead and check it out. Thank you guys again for watching. I will see you in the next episode. Bye now.